Testing. Testing. Could we get people to quiet down? Good morning. Again, for those who weren't here for the first round of the fight, my name is Walter Johnson, and I'm serving as your introductory MC. I first of all want to welcome all of you who are in attendance, but then also would like to welcome those who are now watching us online. So welcome. For those of you who are watching online, I hope you had a good breakfast this morning because we did. And so we're going to continue with the program. At this time, I want to play a video that was submitted to us for this event. So as they're queuing that up, pay attention to the screens and listen to the video, and we will come back to you afterwards.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to join you as we come together to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are reminded of the legacy that he and so many other civil rights leaders such as Coretta Scott King, John Lewis, Rosa Parks, Ella Baker, and Septima Clark have woven into the fabric of our nation's history. The legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and of all these great Americans is defined by the quest for equal justice under the law. Their legacy is a North Star that shines as brightly today as it has ever shone. And it will guide us towards the beloved community that these leaders had envisioned for our world. The beloved community is one in which all people share the wealth of this God-given earth that we live on. A community where poverty, hunger, and discrimination are no longer tolerated, and where we spread love instead of hate to those who are around us. But all across our nation, we face hurdles to the creation of this incredible community. To build the future that Martin Luther King Jr. fought for, we must take lessons from his legacy and take action today, dismantling barriers to equal justice, dismantling systemic discrimination, and dismantling hate and racism. And we must fight for and fortify our beloved community where every person, no matter their race or zip code, has the opportunity to make their voice heard at the ballot box, where Black and brown communities no longer breathe dirtier air and drink more polluted water, where all people have economic opportunity and security, safe and reliable housing, and stable and dignified employment, where our criminal justice system is truly just, rectifying discrimination against generations of Black men who were incarcerated during the war on drugs, and where everyone across our Commonwealth and across our nation has a roof over their head, food on the table, a community where their needs are not just met, but prioritized. Dr. King told us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But we know that arc will not bend on its own. We need everyone here and all across the nation to be pulling on that arc, bending it together, fighting for justice, building the community, and bending it towards equity and justice for everyone. So with Dr. King's words and spirit in our hearts, I pledge to you my partnership in this fight, a fight for liberty, a fight for justice, and a fight for our democracy. God bless Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. God bless all of your work, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Good. We would like to thank Senator Markey for those comments and those words, and I like how he says bending toward justice. So let us continue to do that and embrace justice. Just a few housekeeping things. Again, I want to welcome everyone who is in attendance and also to our online audience. We appreciate you being a part of this. This is our 36th annual breakfast. And again, it's just great to see the continuity of being able to do this. I know COVID kind of impacted all of us. I'm just happy to be able to see people I probably haven't seen in 2 years. So I'm grateful for that. And thanks to all of you. you have your program, and on page 4 of your program, that's basically the playbook that we're going to kind of go with. So that kind of gives you a little template of how things are going to go. And flipping over to page 5, I want to acknowledge our sponsors. You know, none of this can be done without the support of the community, corporate organizations, various contributors, and donors. So with that being said, take time to take a look at page 5. Look at some of the sponsors. Support the sponsors who support us. And there are a lot of different ways. Wegmans, I mean, we all got to eat. You go to Wegmans. As our pastor would say, I'm going to look up. We all have health issues. So look at some of the those areas for help. And again, we thank all of our political support and all the community partners. So thanks to you. At this time, I'm going to introduce our MC. You know, like a baseball game, you know, you have a pitcher starts getting into trouble, you need to bring in somebody better. So I'm having trouble. So basically they're gonna pull the left-hander and bring in the right-hander. And so our MC for today is Malcolm Johnson. He's my cousin. You know how we do, folks. He's my play cousin. But what I'm going to do after this program, he's connected. You know, how many people watch Finding Your Roots? Okay, so he's connected. So Professor Gates will probably take a phone call from him. And so if he traces him, there's a high probability that if we dig deep enough, we might be related. So right now, we play cousins. So he's going to be our MC. But before he comes, we're going to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. It's also commonly known as the Negro National Anthem. And to lead us in that song, we're going to have Marsha Lee come and lead us with that. And so after we sing this song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, you will now be turned over to the capable hands of my play cousin, Malcolm Johnson. Could everybody please stand? And you can find those words on page 9 of your program.
Check 1, check 2. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Page 9. If you have it, say amen. All right. Lift up your voice and sing. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat and not a weary feet, come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of all wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, and lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God and true to our native land.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, cousin. This is an honor to be here, you all. So thank you for having me for the day. Is Ramel Herring here? Anywhere, Ramel? Where's Ramel? Raise your hand, Ramel. Ramel, right there in the back. If we could just thank Ramel Herring. She reached out to me. Okay. Ramel helps to organize this breakfast, and she reached out almost a year ago. And, you know, I pull up to breaking news scenes, and I need maybe 5 minutes to read, diagnose, or process and understand what's going on before I report it on air. And Ramel reached out a year ago. I'm thinking, Ramel, I need maybe 2 days. And so I can't thank her enough for her diligence and her persistence in putting this all together. So thank you, Ramel. You know, I get asked to MC a lot of different events. I had never been asked to work one for MLK, so this has heightened significance. I woke my son up at about 6 o'clock this morning. He wasn't too happy about it. That's Josiah here in the front, if you can see him, all of 5 years old. But he has been learning consistently about Dr. King and his life. And so this, just to be here with you all this morning, it means a lot to me personally. So thank you. So with that, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Framingham Community Church's 36th Annual Martin Luther King Memorial Breakfast. Okay, they're telling me about the video. Okay. So this is about the embrace. I'm not sure if y'all heard about it, but there's now, a beautiful memorial that was placed down on the Boston Common on Friday, all to commemorate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was 5 years in the making. We were able to speak with the architect of it. He's from New York City. It was just a beautiful presentation. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, which I'm guessing you haven't, even though it was just placed there, take a trip down to the Common. You'll love it. I promise you. And that moment there is to celebrate he and his wife, Coretta Scott King, who he met here in Boston as they were embracing one another. So I'd like to thank everyone who's attending here in person, those who are joining us online. For 35 years now, this community has celebrated the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. King earned the title of doctor after receiving his PhD in systematic theology at Boston University. King's time in Boston, it significantly influenced his life. It was in 1965 when King led 20,000 people in the Northeast's first civil rights march from Roxbury down to the Boston Common. And on the Common, I looked up some of the things that he said. Among them, he said, "Now is the time to make brotherhood a reality. Now is the time." King spoke on brotherhood in Boston and throughout his life. I looked up a number of different quotes. We all love to bring up Dr. King's quotes because they're so strong in our history. And he spoke on brotherhood pretty frequently. He'd later go on to say, "The beauty of genuine brotherhood and peace is more precious than diamonds or silver or gold." He also said, "We must live together as brothers or perish together as fools." He also remarked, "Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children." So King was clear in pointing out our strength in coming together. And again, it is a personal honor for me to be here, invited to speak at this annual event where a number of musicians, church members, and freedom fighters are coming together in person and in brotherhood and online to celebrate the life of Dr. King. So coming up here next to the stage, we will have Framingham Mayor Charlie Sisitsky and City Council Chair Philip Ottaviani Jr. as they will be presenting a proclamation. Following their presentation, District Policy Director for Congresswoman Catherine Clark, Wade Blackman, will speak on the Congresswoman's behalf. But first, please welcome to the stage Mayor Sisitsky and Councilor Ottaviani.
And I'm Councilor Casey Bryant, speaking at the Greater Framingham Community Church.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. It's our honor to present to the congregation of the church a proclamation signed by all the members of the city council and the mayor proclaiming, honoring actually your diamond anniversary of the Greater Framingham Community Church. This was signed back in November, but we waited till today's special day to present it to the congregation. Would you like to read it? You want me to read it? Go ahead.
Thank you. But first, I just would like our chair to stand up because just as Dr. King said, You can't get anything done without working together, and he's very supportive. Okay. Whereas the Greater Framingham Community Church, in this its diamond anniversary year, has for 50 years served with dedication the city of Framingham and the Metro West area. And whereas since its inception, the Greater Framingham Community Church has occupied 3 locations in Framingham, always becoming a beneficent presence in the neighborhood. In 1972, GFCC began worshiping in the historic Knobscott Chapel, which was located on the corner of Edgell Road and Water Street. In 1992, the church purchased its first building at the intersection of Hartford and C Street. Rapidly expanding its membership and ministries, GFCC now resides at the corner of Franklin and Park Street in the heart of downtown Framingham, on the site of what was once Framingham's main post office. And whereas the Greater Framingham Community Church is one of the most diverse congregations in the Metro West area, with the goal of empowering families and individuals to make a positive impact in their communities. And whereas for 50 years, the Greater Framingham Community Church has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to improving the quality of life in Framingham. And whereas GFCC consistently collaborates with the Framingham School Department, Framingham's city government, social agencies, businesses, civic, religious, and community organizations, making Framingham more diverse, more welcoming, and more responsive. And in the year 2000, established the New Vision Foundation to partner with community organizations and other foundations to provide an array of community resources that enhance the quality of life in Metro West. And whereas GFCC's ongoing community outreach activities include being a conduit for Framingham's many social services, the annual Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast, the annual MLK Jr. Youth Conference, feeding the homeless and sheltered, practical assistance for those in need, prison ministry, tutorial services, community vacation Bible school, mentoring opportunities, musical choirs, and cultural events, to name a few. And whereas GFCC regularly co-sponsors community events and continues to be a hub of emergency support in Framingham's fight against food insecurity and the COVID virus, continuing to hold free vaccine clinics as well as offer free home test kits. Now, therefore, the city of Framingham does hereby honor and celebrate the Greater Framingham Community Church's 50 years of commitment and service. We proclaim the Greater Framingham Community Church to be a venerable Framingham institution, a pillar of the community, and a model of community service, for which we proffer our sincere admiration and gratitude. Thank you. Yes. Reverend Lloyd?
Okay, so coming up, we have a young professional presentation from Alexis Butler. Alexis is a graduate medical education professional who currently serves as an administrative coordinator at Howard University Hospital in Washington, D.C. She was born in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and a graduate of Smith College. But first, we have a youth presentation from Amaryllis Porter. Amaryllis is a senior at Acton Boxborough Regional High School. She was elected the Black Student Union president and is a lifelong member of the Greater Framingham Community Church. Let's give a warm welcome to Amaryllis.
Good morning, everyone. There I was, staring into a crowd of about 20 unfamiliar faces. It was my very first day of sixth grade at a brand new school, and I was presented with my very first task. Introduce yourself. As I stood at the very front of the class, I took one deep breath and began to speak. My name is Amaryllis, I said. I am 12 years old, and I moved here from a town only a couple minutes away. Mentally, I had already begun to prepare myself for the usual set of questions that follow after I announce my name, which usually sounds something like, are you named after the flower? Or how do you spell that? Looking around the room, everyone seemed content, so I had assumed that my 5 minutes of fame had finally come to an end. That wasn't so. I glanced over at my teacher to see a very bewildered look on her face. She flashed me an awkward half smile before fully turning to look at me. That name is a little tricky, she said. Do you have a nickname that might be a little easier? At first, I thought she was trying to make me laugh, but the very serious expression on her face told me otherwise. I felt a sudden surge of fear wash over me. No one had ever asked me if I had a shorter version of my name before, let alone tell me that my own name was too tricky for them to pronounce. 12-year-old me had never been in a situation like this before, so I panicked and said the first name that came to mind. Yes, I said, my nickname is Amy. And just like that, it began to spread like wildfire. By the end of the day, everyone in the building, including students, teachers, and staff, were all calling me by a name that wasn't my own. For a while, I thought I could just live with it, and that over time, I'd get used to the name and maybe even begin to like it. However, it had the complete opposite effect. Each day that this went on, I grew more angry. Not because everyone was calling me Amy, but because I didn't know how to make them stop. Months and months had gone by before I finally grew the courage to speak up. I remember how nervous I was to have everyone call me by my real name. However, I also remember how great it felt once everyone did. I never knew how crucial my name was to my identity until after this experience. Going by the name Amy made me feel as if I was forced to put on a mask to hide who I really was. And each day that this continued on, it felt as if the mask was getting tighter and tighter until I had no choice but to take it off. If there's one thing I learned from this moment, it's that I have a voice and it's never too late to use it. And since then, I've done just that. Over the years, whenever I felt hopelessness or self-doubt, I've continued to look back at this experience to harness the same courage that I used in the past to help me get through whatever hardship I'm going through in the present. The great Martin Luther King Jr. once said, I came to the conclusion that there is an exponential moment in your life when you must decide to speak up for yourself. Nobody else can speak for you. Dr. King will always be remembered as someone who voluntarily used their voice to empower the lives of others. Throughout his lifetime, he took on the role as a natural-born leader who was never afraid to speak up for what he believed in. Starting in 1950, at the age of 21, Martin Luther King Jr. led the civil rights movement to end segregation in the US through the means of peaceful protest. And on August 28, 1963, he accomplished something this country would never forget. Dr. King led more than 200,000 people to the Washington Monument, where he delivered his infamous I Have a Dream speech for the very first time. In his speech, he encourages the American people to hold their country accountable for the lack of freedom, justice, and equality promised to them in the Declaration of Independence. Although these examples are only a small glimpse of everything Dr. King was able to achieve in his lifetime, all his efforts, hard work, and dedication are the reason we are all gathered here today. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Happy MLK Day. As you know, my name is Alexis Butler, and I was fortunate enough to be raised in this church community and truly consider today to be a full circle moment. I wanted to start off by thanking Reverend Lloyd for inviting me to today's breakfast as the young adult speaker. I'm truly honored by this opportunity and do not take this privilege lightly. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to GFCC for always welcoming me home with open arms and for all of the love and support you've shown. A special thank you to my parents, my godparents, and my Auntie Mert and all my aunties that are here today. Your love and support has gotten me this far, and I'm truly grateful. When I was asked to speak today, I was kind of surprised and rather shocked because the beginning stages of my career have truly been a journey that could be documented by a Lifetime movie. But every test is a testimony, and I hope to share some of my testimony with you today. Throughout my life, even as a child, I knew my goal was to work in healthcare and to help people as much as I could with the knowledge I'd acquired. My career started in 2018, where I had an internship at Partners Healthcare, now known as Mass General Brigham, or MGB. That internship taught me so much. I learned about pressure under fire, making connections, and not taking things personally. While some things didn't necessarily go as expected, I'm so thankful for that opportunity, simply because it served as the foundation for my professional life and allowed me to be challenged in ways that served as a conduit for my growth. It was hard to leave that institution, but if nothing else, I've learned that when God says it's time to move forward, obedience is your best friend and will serve you well. I started working for Dana-Farber in 2019 and enjoyed my time there, but as the year began, I realized that it was just time for something new. Many family members and friends, people I trusted, encouraged me to step outside of my comfort zone, and for me, that meant moving to Maryland. The job hunt process felt excruciating at times, but after almost a year, I got a job that allowed me to move to Maryland. Unbeknownst to any of us, I moved out of state at the very beginning of a global pandemic. Moving during a global pandemic made me think of the MLK quote, "That is my inspiration for my words today." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." I had no idea of what I like to call the staircase of life would present me with when I decided to move to Maryland at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I moved to Maryland a week before starting my new, hard prayed for, and what I thought to be my dream job at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Sadly, things did not work out, and I was let go after 3 short yet painful months. But losing that job was the biggest blessing I could have ever received. The rejection, anxiety, depression, and just sense of failure I felt was heavy and uncomfortable. Imagine saving all of your money, thousands of dollars, to move to a new place to only experience a global pandemic full of isolation and being fired for the first time in your adult life. This was an experience I'd never encountered before, but I knew I had to move past. And in retrospect, I'm thankful that God saw fit for me to remain in Maryland because there was so much more in store. It took me nearly 6 months to find another job, but each opportunity I had after that fateful job led to something better. 14 months after being let go from Johns Hopkins and enduring a long job search, I was blessed to get a job at Howard University Hospital. Through that ordeal, I learned that no matter what you're doing in life, give it your best shot, remain prayerful, and trust that God will give you the desire of your heart at His appointed time. So remember that MLK quote I mentioned earlier about faith is taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase? By the summer of 2021, I'd fallen down the staircase of life. I tripped, I got back up, was pushed down again, got to the bottom of the stairs, thought I was at the top of the stairs, had the rug pulled out from under me more times than I could count. And if anyone has ever fallen down a flight of stairs, you know how disorienting and painful that experience is. I was a very clumsy yet tall kid, so I know with significant certainty what it's like to fall down the stairs a few times. To share the abridged version of me getting my previous job as administrative coordinator at Howard University Hospital, I actively and very passionately pursued this job for a year. Due to the pandemic, it took forever to receive a response. I submitted my application and didn't hear anything for months, and I mean months. I followed up at the suggestion of my godfather, had a phone screening, sat for a few more months, and after a while, I just gave up. But of course, because of the women in my family, most specifically my mother and godmother, who never, and I mean never, take no for an answer, I obliged their suggestions and followed up once more. Once again, I didn't hear much, and I doubt that any progress was being made, but God knew different. In the midst of my waiting, a new work friend of mine had invited me to her dinner party. And lo and behold, her uncle came in and happened to be wearing a Howard University jacket. Now, Howard's at the forefront of my mind, so as soon as I saw this man's jacket, I was like, oh, is he an alumna? Like, where does he work? How long has he been connected there? After speaking with my friend's uncle, I learned that not only had he worked at Howard University Hospital for 40 years, he knew the HR team that I'd been in contact with. I'd practically been stalking them. I was calling them, I was emailing them, I was leaving voicemails. I almost went there and tried to talk my way into having lunch with the HR young lady that had been helping me and had processed my application. Like, I was serious. They were gonna give me this job. And funny enough, he knew the HR team and he knew my future boss. He spoke up on my behalf and pled my case as often as he could. And after a year, 365 days, I finally landed the job. Looking back, I realized that all the bumps and bruises I'd been getting from the staircase of life were worth it. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 11, verse 1, that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I've endured much joy and heartbreak over the last 3 years, but I truly do believe in this life, we're called to take the journey. God calls us to have faith and traverse the staircase, even when it's dark, uncomfortable, and sometimes painful. Lastly, I must share that how we react to things is important. It's known that Dr. King was a leader in his life and work. His leadership played a significant role in the freedoms that we, especially as Black people in this country, enjoy today. He led with grace, sophistication, and intelligence. He was a man of nonviolence, and the way he responded to every challenge is an inspiration to us all. Throughout my career, I've dealt with some colleagues and leaders who've done or said some really hurtful things to me. And while I could have responded in a similar fashion to how those people acted towards me, I chose to rise above and not take their actions personally. My approach, similar to Dr. King's, allowed me to realize that people often project their negative thoughts, feelings, or insecurities onto you, and that has nothing to do with you. I'd just like to say for the young people that are here today, whether you're in high school, college, or just trying to figure out what your next steps might be, I implore you to remain steadfast and hopeful. You're going to experience so many highs and lows at different times, maybe even simultaneously. But keep going and react with grace. Ask for help, seek community, engage in work that speaks to you, and most importantly, fight your way to the top of that staircase. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. One more time for Alexis. And Amarella for speaking on the strength and owning your name and the power that is in that. And Alexis, I love how you said you've been tested, but you wanted to share your testimony. I think you inspired some here today. Coming up next to the stage, our keynote speaker, Dr. Gilda Berabino. Dr. Berabino, did I say it right? Dr. Berabino is the second president of Olin College of Engineering. She is a chemical engineer by training, and she has pioneered new engineering approaches to finding solutions in the wide world of medicine. After Dr. Berabino, public speaker and speed painter Rob Surrett will come here to take the stage for an art performance. But first, join me in welcoming our a musical performance from Marshall Lee Kellerman Group for their presentation.
Come on, praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise. As I think about how far we've come on this journey and us being here together, how far we've come as a country and as a people, it is only because of the goodness of God. Amen. It is only because of, come on, you can clap your hands. It is only because of the goodness of God. God, we can't leave here without thanking you for your goodness today. Truly, God, you have been good. And the song is called The Goodness of God. Yes, Lord, yeah. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never failed me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yeah, you can worship, yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and the darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. Lord, I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh Lord, yes you have. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Here's why I say, 'cause your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. Lord, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Yeah, yeah. Your goodness is running after, Lord, it's running after me. Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Oh, your goodness will overtake me. It's running after me. With my life laid down and surrender now. Lord, I give you everything. Cause your goodness is running after me. Cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh, yeah. And all my life you have been so very good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing, oh, every breath, all my life, not one day, not 2 days, all my life. You've been good. You've been good with every breath that I am in. With every breath that I'm able. I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna sing. Are you gonna sing? Are you gonna sing? Are you gonna sing? Yeah, he's been good. God's been good. God's been good to you. God's been good. God. Hallelujah. Come on, say hallelujah. Come on, say hallelujah. God, you've been good. You've been good. Has he been good? Has he been good to you? Oh, we thank you. We bless you. We bless you. We thank you. We thank you. Hallelujah.
Well, thank you, Malcolm, for that kind introduction. And thank those wonderful singers for that wonderful introduction. If only we could all be introduced like that. Yeah. Yes, thank you all. It's so wonderful. It is my pleasure and honor to be here today to commemorate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And my thanks to the Greater Framingham Community Church and to all of you who have joined us. How many of you were old enough to remember where you were? Is this better? Great. Just stay together, make sure you all hear. It is my pleasure and honor to be here today to commemorate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And my thanks to the Greater Framingham Community Church and to all of you who have joined us. So I want to ask, how many of you were old enough to remember where you were when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died? Many of you. old like me. I was in the 6th grade attending school in Clovis, New Mexico, where my military dad was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base. My dad and my mom were shocked and saddened by his death, in mourning for the loss of a great man, and filled with a heightened sense of worry for their children. As for me, I was young enough to not fully understand the loss, but old enough to recognize the pervasiveness of anti-Black racism and discrimination. I also recognized, even at that age, the Black and white divide in America, to include who was deemed worthy of representation and who wasn't, be it what and how we are taught, or where and how we live and work. In fact, throughout my schooling, I was struck by the absence of Black people and the lack of acknowledgement of Black experience in books and other mainstream media. In the 1st grade in Dover, Delaware, I recall the Dick and Jane series for early readers, centered on a white family in the suburbs and their dog Spot. So I don't even have to ask, but how many of you also read that series growing up, right? I wondered, where's the Black people? Where's the Black family? Where's the Black neighborhood? And as I got older, I began to realize that the omission of Blacks was no accident, but part of a larger system of inequality. By the time I reached high school, buoyed by a better understanding of civil rights movement, I decided to work for equal rights for Blacks in my own way, but first by arming myself with knowledge. I started reading everything I could find by and about Blacks, delving into our history and culture, our innovations, our struggles, and our unbelievable resilience. In my quest, I learned how, as a people, we survived slavery, lynchings, and Jim Crow. We provided life-changing and world-saving innovations, such as Charles Drew's inventions that allow long-term storage of blood plasma, leading to the first blood banks. We demonstrated self-reliance through the creation of thriving Black businesses. We stood up for our rights and the rights of all people. And we shared with the world a rich culture of music, literature, and the arts. As part of a year-long independent study project in high school, I focused on the Harlem Renaissance. Several Harlem Renaissance writers spoke to me. James Baldwin for his fiery, unflinching, and omniscient coverage of the Black experience. W.E.B. Du Bois for his concept of double consciousness, that two-ness of being Black and being American. Zora Neale Hurston for her capture of the authentic voice of those she wrote about. But one writer in particular, Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes really captured my attention. To me, Langston brought power, depth, and humanity to the Black experience. In his writing, he provided means for sense-making and coping. He used humor to illuminate the absurdity of injustice. And through his poetry, he provided inspiration for a better tomorrow. In his poem, I Too Sing America, he wrote, I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. So this poem speaks to me on so many levels, one of which was making Black people visible and noting their beauty as part of America. This poem helped me see more clearly my own experience of invisibility in a white-dominated culture, and it served as an inspiration for action. I sought and created opportunities to make Black people visible wherever possible. In high school, I started the first Black Culture Club. In college, I worked to attract and retain Black students and science majors. And in my graduate studies, I focused on research pertinent to Blacks. I also continued to be a student of the Harlem Renaissance, a period infused with Black pride and Black identity that helped pave the way for the Civil Rights Movement. Thanks to the scholarship of Jason Miller, a professor of literature at North Carolina State University and a Langston Hughes Scholar, we know that Martin Luther King was friendly with Langston Hughes and drew inspiration from him and his poetry. Langston was also inspired by King. The recurring theme of dreams in Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and many of his other writings and speeches has its origin in the dream imagery of Langston Hughes' poems, one of which I'd like to share with you now. A dream deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? In his I Have a Dream speech delivered on August 28, 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial, Martin Luther King said these words, and you know them well. So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. King's passionate call for equality and freedom became one of the defining moments of the Civil Rights Movement. 60 years later, the words, I have a dream, rightly continue to resonate and reverberate around the world. As a Black woman, I continue to find meaning in these words. As a scientist, though, something Dr. King shared with a smaller audience just 3 years later has also stayed with me and provoked some urgency to my work. At the second convention of the Medical Committee for Human Rights, King spoke about equality in healthcare. He said, of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and most inhuman because it often results in physical death. I'll repeat. He said, of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and most inhuman because it often results in physical death. And these words ring as true today as they did when uttered in 1966, as starkly illustrated by the COVID-19 pandemic and its exacerbation of inequities. Data reported by the Kaiser Family Foundation reveals that compared to whites, Blacks have experienced higher rates of COVID-19 cases and deaths, with disparities in hospitalizations and other forms of care. And COVID-19 is just the most recent and most glaringly public example. Racial injustice in health has had and continues to have profound effects on Black health and Black well-being. Blacks trail in life expectancy, have higher rates of maternal mortality, and experience higher incidence and prevalence of certain diseases, just to name a few of the unequal health outcomes. In fact, based on what we still see 57 years since Martin Luther King spoke about injustice in health, we not only have a dream deferred, but we also have a continued nightmare and no real signs of waking up from it. Over the course of my career, I have followed my own dream of a world absent of injustice in health through the application of scientific knowledge to solve medical problems and to eliminate health inequities. I chose to study sickle cell disease to give back to my community. Sickle cell disease disproportionately impacts Blacks and is a poignant example of the intersection of racism and health. Individuals living with sickle cell endure the burden of a debilitating disease characterized by painful vascular crises, associated organ damage, and decreased life expectancy, while also enduring stigma and the debilitating effects of racism. Seen as a Black disease, the manifestations of this condition and racism are intertwined and play out in myriad ways, including undertreatment of pain, limited treatment options, insufficient access to care, and a lack of public awareness and access to funding. Sickle cell disease is understudied and under-resourced in comparison with, for example, cystic fibrosis, a respiratory disease that primarily impacts whites. Cystic fibrosis is funded at a rate nearly 3.5 times that for sickle cell disease. And since the 1960s, as part of the civil rights movement, Blacks and allies fought for greater attention to and support for sickle cell disease. Today, finally, sickle cell disease has been declared a public health concern by the CDC. The National Institutes of Health has launched a Cure Sickle Cell initiative, and the American Society of Hematology has created a sickle cell disease initiative to improve access to care and research. As a career-long sickle cell disease researcher and champion for racial justice, I strive to connect scientific understanding with an understanding of social political influences. Part of my work was actually carried out in this area in Boston during the 1990s and early 2000s, when I conducted research as part of the Boston Comprehensive Sickle Cell Center, which was one of 20 centers funded across the country in response to the 1972 National Sickle Cell Anemia Control Act. Staying the course on sickle cell disease research has not been without challenges. The difficulty in attracting funding, combined with fending off suggestions to pursue another line of research that might be better recognized and perceived, is an ongoing but worthwhile challenge. I am sure that many of you know of individuals living with sickle cell disease, and who among us has not been touched by COVID-19, including the loss of loved ones. You may also know and have witnessed the disproportionate impact of sickle cell disease and other diseases and COVID-19 on the Black community at large, and the harms of health injustice. Consider this: the life expectancy for whites is 78.9 and 75.3 for Blacks. COVID-19 has resulted in a 3.3-year drop in life expectancy for Black men. The average life expectancy for Black men living with sickle cell disease is 42 to 47 years. And we know what accounts for this type of alarming statistic and the disproportionate impact of injustice on Black communities. It's the racism and discrimination that undergird inequities in education, housing, employment, and access to opportunities, all of which contribute to health inequities. I can tell you, as an engineer, I'm very committed to finding solutions to eliminate health inequities. Combining equity with engineering, as well as a desire to give back to our communities and impact society, is a critical and worthwhile strategy. I saw firsthand how well this approach worked while engaging with and collaborating with individuals living with sickle cell disease while I was carrying out my research. When researchers offer patients a seat at the table while sharing results, we gain trust and garner insights unattainable in any other way. I gained some of the best insights, the deepest insights, when I was speaking with a mother of twin boys living with sickle cell disease, when I was speaking with a mother who had recently lost her college daughter to sickle cell disease, and when I was speaking with a young professional previously living with sickle cell disease that was wonderfully cured through gene therapy. The power of science. And let me give you an example of technology that could benefit from this equity impact approach. My colleague, Harriet Nemhard, who is about to become the first Black woman president of another engineering-focused college, and I recently published a piece in American Scientist entitled Suffocating from Medical Bias. We pointed out, by way of example, that the fingertip pulse oximeter, which measures oxygen in the blood, does not work reliably on people with darker skin. I bet many of you knew that. But had the individuals with darker skin been included in the population drawn upon in the development of the pulse oximeter, a more reliable design would have been developed. In our article, we write, protecting Black lives means protecting Black breath, which means addressing the discriminatory design in medical devices and more broadly in the healthcare system. It is incumbent upon scientists, engineers, and clinicians to draw in the communities we serve in gaining a better understanding of needs and how to best meet them. But it's not just the scientists, engineers, and clinicians who can help lead this fight. We can all play a role. We must ask ourselves, individually and collectively, what can I do? What can we do? In the spirit of the plans and the actions of Dr. Martin Luther King, we can think of a number of things, like we can increase our literacy because power comes with knowledge. We can do better with self-care and our care of others. We can serve as advocates and champions for equity and the elimination of systemic racism. We can wear masks and protect ourselves and others. We can get vaccinated and encourage others to do so. We can tend to our mental health as well as our physical health. We can demand more of medical establishments and engage in ways that will build trust on both sides. And most importantly, we can own our power. Own our power. On this day, to commemorate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., let us remember that we too are America. We too have a dream, and it is within us to fulfill that dream. Thank you.
still I thrive. I'm not saying those who have support are weak. I'm not saying you must go in the Lord to gain strength. This is just for those who have fought battles alone. Those who have felt like they don't fit in. Those who have never had support in anything they do. All of those who feel no one believes in them. You don't need them to believe in you if you believe in you. You don't need their support if you've got your own back. The best part is when you truly live the life you want to live, when you speak your truth, when you embrace who you are, then you gain real respect and real love. People love those who have the guts to be themselves, those who have the courage to follow their hearts. Why? It's rare. Why? Because most people wish they could do the same. Show them the way. Keep going. Believe in yourself. It will all come good in the end. And when it does, you won't have only inspired yourself to people, you will have inspired so many others. I had to learn to fight alone. And because of that, I am strong alone. I am strong. Full stop. I developed inner strength that can't be broken. I am unbreakable. Because of the pain, I am strong. Because of the struggle, I have character most will never know. I appreciate others more than ever. I have more compassion than ever. I have to go deep into the darkness. Now I have more depth. Now I can see clearer. I had to face huge internal challenges. Now I can defeat any challenge. I will destroy every challenge. I am proud of who I have become. I am proud I have overcome. I am proud I kept going. I am proud of who I am, who I have become. I am proud I stayed true to myself because now I can live as myself with respect from others and most importantly, pride and respect from myself. Let freedom reign from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom reign from the capital.
No, that was incredible. The journalist in me wants to ask Rob some questions. I mean, he got me. It was upside down. You want to speak, Rob? You're all good? All right. You sure? Rob's coming up. Rob, thank you. Just, if you could share just quickly some of your inspiration.
I've been painting Martin Luther King for the last 29 years as part of a school assembly, which I've performed all over the country. 29 years, I've been to 4,000 schools. Both my parents are teachers, so I wanted to reach kids with something powerful, something inspirational, something creative and right-brained. So I call the show Be Somebody. It's all about kindness and equality and respect. And again, I've painted Martin Luther King 4,000 times at this show. So I'm self-taught, and it comes from just a place very deep within me. And I'm just so pleased to share it with you today. So thank you so, so much for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Rob, for all you do. And Dr. Berabino, thank you for your poignant words, your strong words, your intelligent words. Committing your life to healthcare inequalities, studying sickle cell, which we now know, and I learned, disproportionately affects Black people. I didn't know the degree to which it did, and I learned some of that through you. And is underfunded and understudied. And you said something that really stood out to me. I sought and created opportunities to make Black people as visible as possible. And that was early in your career that you decided to do that. And I think about Amaryllis, who spoke earlier about her name and the power in her name and the strength in her name and being visible in that. And so what I'm really loving about this breakfast is the variety of ages that we have that are all pushing the bar forward to progress the culture, progress our desires, wants, and needs, and what it is that we're looking to do in our time here on this planet. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Dr. Berabino. And I'd like to welcome Marsha Lee and group back to the stage for a musical performance, followed by Reverend Dr. J. Anthony Lloyd for closing remarks.
Praise the Lord again, everybody. Praise be to God. Praise be to God. You know, Psalm 16 and verse 11 says, I will show you the path of life. God will show you the path of life in his presence. Everybody say, in his presence. If you're looking for the path of your life, the path that God intends for your life, it's in his presence. So you get in his presence by worshiping him. You get in his presence by praising him. And you just stay there, and the Lord will divinely lead you just because you are staying in his presence. The song is called In His Presence. It's on YouTube and all social media platforms. It's a song that the Lord gave me, and thank you for allowing me to share it with you today. In the presence of your glory, Lord, I worship you. You're my one desire, the only one I'll choose. And when the cares of the day try to steal me away, Lord, help me stay on my knees, 'cause all I need is in your presence. I wanna be in your presence. I wanna live in your presence. 'Cause in your presence there is fullness of love, joy, and peace, strength for everything I need. I find victory in your presence. I wanna be in your presence. I wanna live in your presence. 'Cause in your presence there is fullness of love, joy, and peace, strength for everything I need. I find victory in your presence. Broken pieces mended, all my sins forgiven, every yoke destroyed in your presence, in your presence. Then those who pursue me cannot overtake me. Covered by you, Lord, in your presence, in your presence. Lord, you have oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. I will praise you. I will praise you. I will praise you. Oh, hallelujah. Praise you, Lord. I want to be in your presence. I want to live in your presence. 'Cause in your presence there is fullness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah. All I really need, Lord, is just to be in your presence. Yeah, 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 yeah. Love, joy, and peace. Everything that I need. There's power in your presence, provision in your presence, peace. I'm in love with your presence. In your presence. Oh, it's all in your presence. Your presence. Everything I need is in your presence. Thank you, everybody. Praise the Lord. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Happy MLK Day. Yes. What a great morning this has been. It is important for us to pause and to celebrate on a day like today. Because our participation and our leadership in the struggle for justice is an ongoing endeavor. It calls on us each and every day to make a stand where we are. And there are moments along the way when we must pause and celebrate and be inspired to continue in the struggle. I want to thank the Board of Christian Education, MLK Committee, for their hard work in bringing us together. Indeed, thank you so much. I want to thank each of you being present today. You look around the room, around the tables. We come from different walks of life, and yet that life we know from MLK is intertwined together. And the moments for which we are able to understand that are important, because even as King said, we cannot do this alone. I want to thank Malcolm, cousin Michael, Malcolm here. Yes, indeed. Thank you for being an MC. Thank you for what you do every day in your space. I was inspired in just watching you operate this weekend on TV and as you maneuvered through. We started today recognizing that here in Boston, after a long struggle, we finally stopped and pulled it together to have this here monument to embrace. As it's been said, it is taken from that moment when Dr. King received the Peace Prize and him and Coretta are together. Coretta walked beside Malcolm, not behind him. Malcolm and Coretta, Coretta and Malcolm. And I am so proud that we here in New England are finally getting it right. It's the two of them together. Dr. King said, I have decided to stick to love, for hate is too great a burden to bear. I do not have to share with you the litany of what this journey has been, or the litany since the last time we were able to meet in person. The burden of hate that crowds on our plate, invades our life. He chose to stick with love. And that's what we've got to do. Booker King would go on to say, in understanding Jesus, he said, love your enemies. And it is, if anything, love has a redemptive power to it. I was reminded as she stood up in my 12th grader, senior here, and she talked about the challenge of what it means, in essence, yes, to be visible for who you are. And that has resonated even through, yes, with my young adult that I'm so proud of. God bless you today, let alone our speaker. Thank you of making sure we are visible. And we are. I often tell my young people, be mindful that any space that you are in, you ought to own that space. Own it because you know who you are. Own it because you are clear about your identity. Own it because you know you belong at the table, but you have a voice at the table. Own it because God created you, and even as King said, and you look good. So own it. So my young people are owning it. Let me also say, as we think about this embrace, that monument, that wonderful moment, I'm looking forward to be able to go there, stand underneath and look up and dream about the possibilities. That monument is also, as it is about love, it is that it is an act of defiance. It is a statement unequivocally that says, love endures. I want you to understand that, because the road that's in front of us is a difficult one. But it's going to take endurance, and quite frankly, we're going to make it. We are going to make it. We're going to make the progress. We're going to make the steps. We're not going to stumble. We have our moments when somehow it gets difficult, but we're not giving up. And every time I look around and I see Malcolm there on TV, or know of my president of college, or let alone a host of people in this room, a number of you are first in what you do, and we are proud of you and what you do. You inspire others. You inspire my little children, my teenagers, my young adults. And when I look at them, I'm reminded we're in good hands, y'all. We are in good hands. I'm proud of them. So I say to each of you, let's continue to struggle. Yes, we must embrace an ethic of love, but it's one that is visible where we are not invisible. It is one where we participate and we lead. It's one that we're at the table, but we have a voice and are heard at the table. And indeed, in doing that, the dream of Dr. King, which is our dream, and all the walks of life, we will make that dream a reality. May it be so today. May it be so as we continue in this struggle. Thank you for all the participants in our program today. I salute each of you. Thank you for your contribution in so many ways. We shall overcome as we close today. Won't you stand? We want to share in this here song. Marshall Lee's going to come. Make sure we stay on tune.
We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. God is on our side. God is on our side. God is on our side. God is on the side of justice. God is on our side. Oh, yes, He is. God is on our side today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. One more time, we shall overcome. We shall. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, yes, I do believe that we shall overcome
Happy MLK Day. God's blessings on you.